We have a bunch of very important games on Friday night, including the de facto Region 7 AA championship game, a playoff game in the ICSGA, and several other key games that could decide who plays for region titles. All this coming up now on the Gridiron Central Preview Show. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jim Alred, joined as always by the voice of high school football for 95.7 The Ridge, Matt Davis. Boom. There we go. Double boom on that one, and this week deserves it.
Lots of status just went up even more.
You know, my nerd status never goes down. Never, ever goes down. It's just a fact of life. Lots of key games this week. As I mentioned in the teaser to the show, we're going to start off with a game that's not quite as vital in all of it, but we'll get to the big ones on down the list. Adairsville is at Gordon Central. The Warriors are winless for the season. Adairsville's looking to really grab that number 3 spot out of Region 5 AAA. I'm going to go ahead and pick it. Yes, the game's at Gordon Central. Gordon Central's had a tough year. I think they've gotten better, but not good enough to beat the Tigers. I think the Tigers win. Matt?
You know, last week at Adairsville, they got drubbed by Cartersville, which I thought it would be a little bit more competitive than it was last year. It wasn't really. It was a really tough game for them. Last week as well, Gordon Central, same thing happens to them against Sonoraville. They got beat down. And so you got two teams that kind of limp into this game, but getting beat badly by Cartersville is a lot different than getting beat badly by Sonoraville. Yeah. So don't let that fool you into thinking this is going to be a close game, because in my opinion, it is not. I've seen Adairsville play several times over the last couple of years. As I say every week, it probably sounds like a broken record. Marcus Childers, a good quarterback. He's got good wide receivers. He's also got a tandem of running backs that's really solid. Special teams are good. Defense is pretty good. They're a pretty good football team. So Adairsville, I think, wins this game running away.
Gotcha. Moving to a Region 7 AA game. Coosa is at Armurchie. Armurchie, of course, last week lost to Dade. Coosa last week lost to Model. Yes, Model fans, I was wrong. We'll get to that in just a minute, but guess what? I was wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times before. I'll be wrong again. That being said, Coosa's at Armurchie. The Eagles know they need to win their next 2 games for a chance at the playoffs. Armurchie mathematically might still possibly be in. Probably not a great shot for them. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Armurchie's got a real good shot, because they got to play Coosa. Unless I'm badly mistaken, they've got Pepperell next week. Yeah. So they've got a tough end of their schedule. Coosa, they're stinging a little bit from that loss against Model last week. They're still a good football team. And, you know, one of the things that Model did that helped them be successful against Coosa last week was getting into the backfield and getting to the quarterback all night long. And one of the kids that really did a good job was Justin Nelson. And, you know, this is going to be one of the things that Armurchie's got to do in this game. If they want to have success, they got to get in the quarterback's head. And if they're able to do that, they may have a chance. I think Coosa's too good. I think that with Isaac Bradley, as you saw last week against Model, he can, you know, break for a big kick return and score a touchdown like he did in that game. Yeah. Big plays, even when you're guarding him very well, which I felt Model did a good job of that. He can get up and get balls and beat the coverage. So I think he's going to be a main target in this game. The running game's not bad for Coosa. I just think they're a better football team, and they'll beat Armurchie.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Armurchie can score a couple of touchdowns. The key there, again, if Armurchie can bring the type of defensive pressure we saw last week that Model brought on them, then Coosa could have some problems. I think that Armurchie might be able to do that a little bit, but not the entire game. I think Coosa will win this game. Moving on, Calhoun at Model. Basically, and there is no basically, the winner of this game is the Region 7 AA champion. And thinking back, can you imagine 3 years ago us saying how important a game with Model like this in one of those 2-win seasons they had? How quickly things can turn around. Model with 7 wins this season.
It's amazing. It really is.
You know, and let's just go ahead and let me put this out there. I've probably said a couple of things, and of course I come to regret often. People call me out on Facebook, can't remember the woman's name, but they held up the sign, Jim Alred, we still haven't played anybody. Kudos to you calling me out. You're right. I was wrong. You're right. That being said, Model has played people. I believe 5 of the teams they're playing, and this will be their 6th, are possible playoff teams. You know, Sonoraville is probably going to be a playoff team. I believe they play Christian Heritage is going to be a playoff team.
Beat Christian Heritage.
I believe they lost to Mount Pisgah, unless I'm not mistaken. Mount Pisgah is undefeated. Is going to be playing Darlington for the Region 6A title in 2 weeks. So they played a tougher schedule than I gave them credit, and they beat Pepperell. They beat Coosa. Key thing about Model, it is their defense. Yeah, the offense did show up against Coosa, played really well. Model's defense has won them ball games. The offense has gradually gotten better throughout the season. Special teams is solid, especially the punting and the kicking game. You know, however, who are they playing, Matt? Who are they playing?
Yeah.
Okay. You take it from there. I'll come back in a second.
Well, first thing I want to say is I think now from now on, whenever Model's going to throw the ball, they come up to the line of scrimmage and the quarterback says, Jim Alred special on 3, or something like that. I just had to throw that in there. But it is kind of funny. But this week, I would imagine that the Model folks are going to have a bullseye on both of our heads, because I cannot pick Model to win this football game. I think they're a better team. As a matter of fact, last week I think was the best I've seen Model play in the last 2 years. Yeah. And one of the things that I think it has helped them is you hate to see a guy like Nikyle Watkins not be in the lineup, but I think it's opened up the other door for more guys to come in and become playmakers and give them more opportunity, because when you have a back like Nikyle Watkins in your backfield, the tendency is to want to give him the ball. And so now you've seen Model have to diversify on offense. Now, with that said, Chris Dublin, he carried the workload for them. Even though he didn't get in the end zone, he ran for over 200 yards and set up their touchdown opportunities, which they got on 4 pass plays, which is pretty unbelievable. But, Model's a better team, and they may be better than what happened last year where they got shut out 35-0. I think they're going to find a way to score against Calhoun. But Calhoun's going to be Calhoun. They're just a better football team. No offense to people at Model. They're getting better, and this is a program that's on the rise. But Calhoun, one of the things I really want to point out about them is if they were to come into this game complacent, Model might have a chance. Yeah. But when's the last time you saw a Hal Lamb coach football team come out into a game and not be prepared? Never. You don't see that happen. And so, therefore, I think both teams will be well coached and prepared in this game, but I think Calhoun's a better football team and they'll win.
All righty. Before I say anything else, I predict Calhoun to win. Yes, Model assistant coaches, I'm picking against you just like you want me to do. Here's the deal. But that being said, the game is at Model. It's not on the artificial turf at Phil Reeves Stadium in Calhoun. There is a possibility of rain. Calhoun has had problems with turnovers this year. Calhoun's offense is not as good as it has been. Calhoun's defense is very good. Guess what? So is Model's. Calhoun special teams, they're good. Guess what? So is Model's. I think Calhoun's offense is better than Model's offense, but if Calhoun starts turning the ball over, anything can happen. The key for Model is do not let Calhoun run away. If Calhoun's going to come out, they're going to take it to them. They're going to try to score a lot. If Model can hang tight and keep this game close into the latter stages of the second half, Model can win. I'm not predicting that they will win, but I'm saying it could be a very interesting game. That being said, Model fans, I pick against you again. Rejoice. I've been wrong 3 or 4 times this year already. Moving on, Gilmer at Cedartown. The sub-region championship on the line. Nick Chubb with over 2,100 yards already. Cedartown has a very tough opponent in Gilmer. Matt, can the Bulldogs win against Gilmer?
I think they can, but they didn't last year. As a matter of fact, they got shut out by them last year. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think revenge is going to be sweet. Chubb is having a fantastic season, reaching all kind of milestones. And, he had another great week last week. And so I think they're going to continue to improve as things go on this season. I think they're going to be undefeated once it's all said and done, and then eventually end up playing Ringgold there for the
They actually will be playing Dalton.
Dalton. But I still think Cedartown wins this game.
Gotcha. Here's my thing about this game. Gilmer's the only team in the last 2 years to keep Chubb under 100 yards. For Cedartown to win this game, the defense is going to have to play better than it's played all year, and Cedartown's offense is going to have to get points and yards from someone other than Nick Chubb. Gilmer's good enough. I'm not saying they're going to shut Nick Chubb down, but I say they are going to limit him. I'm going to predict a Cedartown win here, and I do think it sets up extremely well for them against Dalton in the region championship next week if they beat Gilmer, obviously. If Cedartown loses, they'll be in a sub-region play-in. They'll be in a play-in game, meaning they can only get a number 3 or a number 4 seed in a road game in the first round of the playoffs. Obviously, beat Gilmer, you're guaranteed a first-round home playoff game because you're either going to be the champion or the runner-up of the region. I say Cedartown's going to win it. I think it's going to be close, but someone other than Chubb on offense has got to step up and carry some of the load. Moving on, staying in Region 7 AA, Dade County at Chattooga. A game, the Wolverines are still fighting for a playoff spot. Chattooga mathematically could still squeeze in as well. After last week, the way Pepperell handled Chattooga, I don't know. I think Chattooga and Dade are fairly evenly matched. I'm going to go with Dade in this one. I think the Wolverines know how much is on the line for them. Chattooga, I think they're just a little bit back, but it would not surprise me at all with it being at Chattooga if the Indians win this game. Matt, what do you think?
Last week I was really surprised that Chattooga wasn't competitive with Pepperell because of the way that things have gone for them the last couple of years in that matchup. Boy, I was so wrong about that. I know that at one point in the game I believe that Pepperell was shutting them out 34-0, and then they ended up scoring towards the end of the game. In this game, I got to go with Dade County based on what Chattooga did last week, and that's the only reason. If Chattooga ended up picking up again the win against Pepperell or was more competitive in that game, I might be more inclined to pick them. But it feels like Chattooga last week took a big step backwards. Yeah. And so from that standpoint, like you say, Dade County a lot on the line. I've seen them play this year. They're not a great football team, but they can run the ball pretty well, and they can come up with some points when they need to. So I'm going to say that Dade County picks up the win.
Gotcha. We both think that Dade County will win that one game before we go to the commercial break. One more game. Darlington traveling to play Our Lady of Mercy. The Tigers enter this week. They have dropped to the number 2 spot in the private school power rankings. The team in front of them, Mount Pisgah Christian, the team that Darlington will be playing for the region title next week. Imagine that. Number 1 and number 2 in the state in the private school power rankings playing for a region title. That being said, the Tigers still have to play at Our Lady of Mercy. Matt, what do you think?
Well, a couple of things that stick out to me in this game. Number one, you're playing against a team that you've never played before on the road. So maybe that factors into this game. But one of the things that you really notice about Darlington this year is it seems like once the buzzer sounds and the game's over, they're ready for the next one. This is a really competitive and eager team. And I think that's one of the things that really aids them in these situations where you're going into some unknowns, is the fact that your team is going to be up to play in a competitive situation no matter what the situation is. And they're well coached. This is a good football team. So I think Darlington goes on the road and picks up a win in the first game of the series.
Gotcha. The big thing I look at this, Our Lady of Mercy, now granted Darlington's played a very tough schedule. Our Lady of Mercy's played a pretty darn tough schedule too. They only lost to Mount Pisgah by 1 point earlier in the season. Their losses have come against some pretty good teams. This is not going to be a cakewalk for Darlington. Remember, this is a replacement game for Southwest Atlanta Christian, which dropped football this season. Literally right before the season, Darlington was able to scramble and pick up Our Lady of Mercy as a replacement game. Not an easy game, but in all honesty, I think the Tigers will win. When we come back from the commercial break, we have 6 more key games to talk about.
Begin your future at Georgia Northwestern Technical College. We offer degrees, diplomas, and certificates in over 200 programs of study. Choose a career in business, health, industrial, or public service. With the flexibility of day, evening, and online classes at any of our 5 campus locations, getting your education at GNTC has never been more convenient. There are many financial aid options available, including student loans. Apply now. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your college, your town, your future.
Welcome back to the show. Well, maybe not all of these 6 games will be key, but they are key for the teams that get the wins. We start Pepperell at Murray County. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Pepperell wins this one probably big. Matt?
There's not a lot to say about this game, but if Pepperell the next couple of weeks, which they should, if they take care of business, then they could be in the playoff picture despite a really slow start and one of the worst seasons that they've had in a long time. So for them to be able to do that, you could at least end the season on a positive note and get into the playoffs. We're in a situation where you're going to end up with a losing season because of the way things are shaking out right now. So I'm going to go with Pepperell in this game. It's Murray County. They've maybe improved a little bit, but it's still been a tough situation for them all season long, like it's been the last several years. So I'm going with Pepperell.
Definitely, and with Pepperell, like I said, jumping on, yes, there's definitely the Region 7 AA playoff situation. Coosa, Pepperell, Dade, Model, Calhoun are all right there in the playoffs. This will all be, after this week, we'll have a much clearer picture of exactly who's going to be wearing the seeding, and it could come down to the last week of games as to who gets 2, 3, and 4 overall. Moving on to AAA. For AAA, Rockmart at Best Academy. Yellow Jackets have had a tough year. I'm just going to go out here and say that it's at Best Academy. I'm going to put Best in this one. Matt?
I'm going to take Best as well. I mean, I believe last year Rockmart won this game, unless I'm badly mistaken.
I believe you're right.
And this year, you got Best Academy going up against Callaway, and they only got beaten that game by about 10 points. Well, Callaway's a pretty darn good football team. Rockmart's had a struggle this year. I really think Best Academy wins the game.
Gotcha. Moving on to a very big game at Barron's Stadium. Villa Rica at Rome. Rome's final home game of the season. They have 2 games left in Region 5-5A. Rome, we kind of know what's going on. Rome has to win this game. They have to win against Woodland and then hope for a little bit of help, and they'll squeeze into the number 4 seed in the playoffs. Villa Rica is not a bad football team. This is a pretty good little football team. Rome, I think, is better. I think the defense has come around. The offense is looking better and better as the season goes on. Special teams has gotten better. This Rome team is starting to coalesce, to come together. They look good. I believe Rome wins this game. It could be close, but I think the Wolves get the win at Barron. Matt?
Couple of things I think that this game depends on. One of them is the motivation level for Villa Rica, because Villa Rica they killed their playoff hopes last week by getting beat by New Manchester, and so that makes a difference in this game. But if they're up for this game and they're motivated to play, they could be a thorn in Rome's side as they're trying to win their last couple of games and make it to the playoffs. So I factor that in. But playing at home, even though Rome's in a pressureful situation where they know they've got to win to keep those hopes alive, I think their motivation level is going to be through the roof. They're going to be fired up about this game, and they're going to come out and they're going to play tight, and they'll pick up the win.
Gotcha. Sonoraville at Cartersville. Remember, the Purple Hurricanes are undefeated, ranked number 2 in AAA. Sonoraville is on path to get that number 4 seed out of Region 5 AAA. Unfortunately, the Phoenix are not going to present that much of a challenge to the Hurricanes. I say Cartersville wins and wins big. Matt?
I mean, anytime you see a situation where Cartersville beats Adairsville badly like they did last week, and then you got Sonoraville coming up, you got to figure Cartersville is going to be the favorite team to win this game. But I think it's great that Sonoraville, once they get past this game and move on to next week, going up against LFO, a team they should beat, that they're going to be, making it to the playoffs this year despite a really slow start. I mean, I think I may have even made the comment a couple of weeks into the season, this is a team that may not win a game.
I believe you did.
Yeah.
And I may have too, for all I know.
But they have really improved, and that's one of the things that you want to see when you're watching these games is watch young people when they're having a tough time, persevere, get better, work hard, and see the fruits of the labor, so to speak. And in this case, it'll be Sonoraville making it to the playoffs. So I picked Cartersville, but good things are ahead for Sonoraville.
Definitely so. And the Phoenix have never reached the playoffs. Of course, they've only been around 8 or 9 years. Actually, I don't even know if they've been around that long, but they've never reached the playoffs. They came close 1 year in 7AA, but ended up losing the play-in game. Sonoraville, again, if they take care of business next week, no matter what happens with Cartersville, Sonoraville will be in the playoffs as a Region 5 AAA number 4 seed. Christian Heritage at Tryon. The Bulldogs, this is about the time last year that the Bulldogs turned the corner on the season and surprised a lot of people. They had some tough losses midway through, and then all of a sudden, the switch flipped on, the flip switched on. And the Bulldogs, the lights came on, and they did quite well getting to a couple of rounds in the playoffs. I'm just going to say this, Christian Heritage is a very good team. Darlington almost lost to them at Christian Heritage with the game being at Tryon. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs in this one. I think most people will pick Christian Heritage. I think the Bulldogs are just about to make a run similar to what they did last season. I go with the Bulldogs. Matt, what do you think?
I can see your point on that, and I don't think that's a bad pick. I'm going in the opposite direction, and there's a couple of reasons why. You mentioned Christian Heritage being extremely competitive against Darlington. They were also very competitive against Model, which Model's proven as they've gone along that they're a pretty darn good football team. A couple other things that stick out to me. Christian Heritage shut out Gordon Lee 35-0, and that's a team that Tryon last week barely got by with a win, after playing them, and so that one kind of resonates in my mind. So I'm going with Christian Heritage. I just think they're a better football team than Tryon is this year.
Gotcha. One last game to talk about. It is the first round of the ICSGA playoffs. That is the Independent Christian Schools of Georgia and Alabama. For those keeping track at home, Unity Christian traveling to play Calvary Christian. Here's an instant rewind game. They actually played to begin the season. Unity won that game by a single point. This is in Columbus, Georgia, Friday night. Talking to Joe Curtis in Unity, and he basically says, look, I think we have a chance in this game. When Curtis says that, the Lions usually do. Matt, what do you think?
This is one of those games where when you have a team that plays a team for the second time in a season, if they beat them the first time, you don't want to pick them the second time, because we all know it's very hard to beat the same team twice, especially when the teams match up. And this is one of those cases. But like you say, when Joe Curtis has a good feeling about things, and we all know that they're one of those teams that over the last few years, they've gotten better as the season's gone on. I think they're going to play a better game this time than they did the first time. Yeah. And so I got to go with Unity in this game. I think they'll put enough offense on the board to get past Calvary and go on to the second round.
When these two teams met early in the season, or at the beginning of the season is the better way to put it, Unity was primarily a passing team. The Lions have kind of switched gears in the last couple of weeks, have been primarily a running team. So Calvary Christian's actually probably going to be playing a significantly different Unity team than what they faced at the beginning. The other thing, and as Matt hit on it, as we've said week after week, the trademark of Unity Christian under Joe Curtis is they get better as the season progresses. It's the first round of the playoffs. Everybody at Unity knows if they can win this game, they're putting themselves in good position. Win this game, they'll be in the ICSGA semifinals. You never know what can happen once you're in the playoffs. It's at Columbus. I agree with Matt. I believe the Unity Christian Lions win and move on to the semifinals of the playoffs. That being said, that is our wrap for all of our games this week. Remember to come back Friday night for live scoring updates from all the games around Northwest Georgia, and later on for articles, photos, and video highlights, and of course, the Gridiron Central Scoreboard Show, where I will wrap up all the scores for all the games, give you some analysis of what's going on, and of course, then again, next Wednesday, we'll have a very interesting preview show as we will be talking about the final playoff scenarios for all of our local teams, because we're 2 weeks away from the playoffs right now. For Kevin Myrick, Matt Davis, I'm Jim Alred saying we'll see you on the sidelines. Boom.
Boom.